Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today we're doing part 3 of my Love is Blind season 4 series. So we're going to talk about episodes 9, 10, and 11 of Love is Blind. I will link part 1 and part 2 down below if you haven't seen them yet and you want to watch these videos in order. Definitely click down there to watch the other parts first. And like I've been saying in all my Love is Blind videos, I will not be giving any spoilers outside of what happens in the episodes we're discussing, so I haven't looked up anything else outside of the show. We're just going to be talking about what happens in episodes 9, 10, and 11. And just like in my other videos, we're going to go one couple at a time and just kind of talk it through. Obviously in the show, everything is kind of intercut back and forth between the different couples, but for this I'm just gonna go through one couple at a time and give you a recap and also my opinions about everything that's been going on. So first up, Jackie and Marshall. We all knew this relationship was going down the drain. I had a bad feeling from my last video that this was not gonna go very well, and everything fell apart in these new episodes. So first we see Jackie and Marshall getting back from Chelsea's birthday party, which was at the end of the last set of episodes. So they're coming home and they're clearly like not thrilled with each other. Jackie's really tired and she wants to go to bed, but Marshall is really feeling bothered by this like dark feeling hanging in the air between them. So he's trying to ask her, what does she need from him moving forward? Like he's trying to start a conversation about, what can I do for you? What do you need from me to move forward and make this work? And she just keeps saying like, I don't want to talk about this. I'm tired. Let's go to bed. Let's talk about this later. And he keeps pushing the issue, which I think is not really the right way to go about this. Like, you want to talk about something like this when both of you are in a good space to talk about it. However, I can see his frustration because like she's never in a good space to talk about stuff like this. Like every time we see them trying to have a conversation, she just shuts down. She doesn't know how to deal with her emotions. So I can understand why he just is kind of like trying to force her to have the conversation with him, but she still doesn't want to. And he keeps trying to hammer home like, what do you need from me? And she won't really give an answer, and she ends up just coming over and hugging him and saying, just love me. And it's like, he's asking her a much deeper question and she's giving him a very surface level answer. And that's like one of the big problems in this relationship, is that he's very emotionally deep and she is not. Like, I don't think she's ready for that kind of a relationship. So that just doesn't work between them and they don't end up talking anything out. Then later we see all the girls going to do a wedding dress fitting and all the guys are doing a suit fitting to prepare for the weddings, which are about a week away. And Jackie doesn't show up. So the other girls are kind of talking about it and they're saying, oh, Jackie's really going through it right now. Like, you know, she's not here. I don't know if she's coming. We don't know what's going on. And Tiffany texts Brett to tell him that Jackie didn't show up for the fitting. So then Brett pulls Marshall aside and he's like, hey man, I want to let you know what's going on here. Marshall looks so devastated when he finds this out, but he's clearly like trying to keep it together because he's like in public, he's in the middle of having his suit fitted, and then he finds out that his fiance is not working on getting her wedding dress fitted. So it just kind of seems like this relationship is over, but they haven't spoken about it. Then, from the magic of editing, we see Jackie at a coffee shop meeting up with Josh. And if you remember, Josh is the guy that she was in a love triangle with from the very beginning of the show. And he was at Chelsea's birthday party being really messy and trying to talk to her. So now they meet up again for coffee. And this is edited to make it look like Jackie skipped the wedding dress thing to go meet Josh for coffee. Personally, I don't think that those things were happening at the same time. I think it's just edited to look that way because it's more dramatic. But either way, she meets up with Josh at a coffee shop. He brings her flowers and they just kind of jump right into it with him saying that like he wants to be with her and why is she with Marshall? And she admits that she feels very attracted to him and she's interested in him. He keeps saying that he loves her and he wants to be with her, and it's just giving desperate. Like, this man does not give up, that's for sure. And Jackie ends up saying that she robbed herself of the opportunity to try things out with Josh. She feels like she chose wrong by being with Marshall, and Marshall is too emotional for her. Josh asks her if she can see herself marrying him, Josh, and she says, I don't know about the whole legal marriage part of it. Like, the legal marriage scares me, but I'm definitely open to like dating and seeing what's going on. And I'm like, if you're not open to the legal marriage part of things, why are you on this show? Like, that's literally what this entire show is about. So that was stupid to me, that she was just like, yeah, like, I'm not ready to get married. It's like, well, why did you go to this casting? Then she and Josh get up to leave and they kiss, and they're like kissing in this coffee shop. And I'm just like, this whole thing is so disrespectful to Marshall. To me, it's kind of the same thing as what happened with Zach and Irina earlier, where it's like, you're not obligated to be with someone you don't want to be with. But I think you are obligated to be honest about that and communicate that to that person before you just move on to someone else. Like, that's so gross to me to watch this all happen. So that was really bad. Then later on, we see Jackie and Marshall at home together, and they basically have a breakup conversation where she's saying that she can't give Marshall what he wants, and he's saying, I've never asked you for anything. They're just really not communicating well, and they never have. He says that everything has always been on her terms, which is kind of true, at least from what we see. Like, we just see him trying so hard and doing everything for her and trying to be so sweet to her and listen to her and comfort her, and she just gives him nothing back. And she tells Marshall that she can't love him because she's attracted to Josh, which is just like so devastating. You guys should have had this conversation long before Josh ever came in the picture. All in all, it was a very hurtful breakup. You can tell that Marshall is very devastated by this, but he's once again trying to keep it together. He tells her that he wants the ring back because she never should have accepted it from him because she's not ready to get married and she wasn't sure about him from the first thing. And she's saying no, she's gonna keep the ring. So the whole thing is messy. I think Jackie handled this really badly. She's very immature, and I feel sad for Marshall. I really do, because he seems like a nice guy. He definitely has problems, which we talked about in the last video, but like overall, they just weren't a good match, and the breakup was really painful to watch. I am glad that they broke up before the wedding though, because I think that would have been so devastating to watch her say no at the altar. Like, when they've had all these problems going on, at least she had the decency to break it off before dragging all their friends and family to a wedding. Next, we can talk about Micah and Paul. Honestly, we don't get a lot of new information about them in these episodes. We see them have a talk about moving in together, and if she's gonna move into his place, she won't have enough space for all her stuff because she's like super hyper consumerist material girl, which is no surprise. She also has a second house in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he's really resistant to the idea of moving with her to Scottsdale. I guess she has like a house in Seattle and a house in Scottsdale. She's also 25 years old, so the fact that she has two houses is giving daddy's money. But anyway, Paul is saying he doesn't really want to live with her in Scottsdale, but he's open to the idea of like trying it out because his job is remote. They already start having a conversation of like, what if we don't get married? Like, what would we do then? And they don't really go too deep into that, but the fact that both of them mentally are like even considering maybe not getting married, not a great sign for a happy marriage. But as you guys all know, I hate this couple. I really hope they break up. I specifically hate Micah. I don't mind Paul at all, but I hate Micah and I don't want her to be happy. So every time they have an argument, I'm like, yes, it's not gonna work out. There's an interview with Paul where he's talking about why he loves Micah and everything he loves about her. And he speaks really nicely about all the things he loves about them together as a couple, but also just the things he loves inherently about her. And he actually has some like very complex, nice things to say about her. Meanwhile, she does not feel that way about him at all. Like, every time we see her talk about him, she's just talking about how like, I have to make him look acceptable. I have to dress him. I have to redecorate his house. Like, she doesn't trust him and she doesn't like him as he is. So to see him saying that he genuinely likes her for herself, and we know that she doesn't feel the same way about him, that's really sad to see. And I also feel like he's just deluded. Like, what does he like about her? I really don't get it. During the dress fitting, we do see a kind of sweet moment between Micah and her mom, where her mom is like really thrilled to see Micah trying on wedding dresses, and they talk about how it wasn't always guaranteed that her mom would see this. Like, they don't really explicitly say what was going on, but it seems kind of like her mom had some major health issue where her life was at risk. It wasn't guaranteed that her mom would survive to see Micah do something like try on a wedding dress. So that was a really nice, like, sweet moment between them. However, I hate Micah's dress. It is so bland and so boring, which is suitable for her, I guess, but like, no, all the other dresses are so beautiful, and Micah just chooses this like really boring, kind of ill-fitting, plain dress. I was kind of surprised because she seems like a very extra type of girl, and this dress is so boring. But anyway, we also see Micah being taken, probably against her will, to forge her own wedding ring with Paul. I can't imagine that this is what she wanted, like just judging from her personality. He seems like so thrilled and this is gonna be a super cool activity. She seems like she's just playing along with it, because you cannot convince me that girl does not just want a Tiffany ring. But they make their own wedding bands, it's cute, whatever. Then everyone is getting ready for the bachelor and bachelorette parties, and Micah kind of lectures Paul about how he has 13 $1 bills in his wallet and he better come home with all 13, because he shouldn't be like giving the $1 bills to the strippers. Like she's trying to make this weird joke about how like don't look at the strippers, and then we see her at her bachelorette party looking at like strippers and like other women and like throwing dollars, and I was just like, this is also stupid and a double standard. We hear Paul at the party talking about how there's an incredible amount of risk in marrying Micah when he hasn't known her for that long, and that he hasn't collected enough data for such a lifelong decision. He is a scientist, so he's kind of thinking about this like a scientist, and hopefully he will come out on top with that line of thinking. I think that he's right. Like, he does not have enough information about her. The information we do have about her is pretty shitty, and I could definitely see him like saying no to marrying her but wanting to try to keep dating her or something, and then it probably won't work out after that. But it seems like that's in the back of his mind. And the last time we see anything of them together is Micah getting white girl wasted at the bachelorette party, like so embarrassing of a level of drunk, like just comically drunk, and FaceTiming him and being like, oh my god, Paul, and she's slurring her words so bad, and he's like, I don't know what she's saying, I can't understand her, like, and she's like, I'm gonna come find you, I'm coming to your bachelorette party, I'm gonna crash your party. And he's just like, what? Like, it was just really, she just makes a fool of herself. Also, her friend, her like mean friend from the last few episodes is there, and she's like, yeah, we still hate him. So I don't know what's gonna happen to Micah and Paul. I really could see it going either way. Do I think they should get married? No, but I could see them both saying yes and like making it work. I don't know. I really hope that they say no. Next up, everyone's favorite couple, Brett and Tiffany. So in these episodes, we see a lot more of Brett and Tiffany meeting each other's friends and family. So Tiffany goes to meet Brett's friends, and they seem to like her right away. He talks about like his family history of generational poverty and trauma and things that he grew up with, and how a lot of his previous relationships or other women like just kind of count him out of a real relationship because of the way he grew up. But with Tiffany, she understands his history, she accepts it, and she really wants to grow and build with him. They both seem like super successful people who have the same goals, and his friends clearly love her and they're like immediately accepting of her. They think that Brett is happy. I will say that like everybody around them, all their friends and family, seem to immediately know that this seems real. Like, I think they can all tell that these two people like genuinely like each other. The people who are closest to them know that they're really in love, and I think that that says a lot about the quality of the relationship, even though it's been a very short time. Both of them are a little bit older, and so I think their friends signing off on it and saying, yes, this seems right, like that really makes me feel good about it. Tiffany also talks about how the reason she's waited and she's never gotten married before, even though she's 36, is because she never wanted to just be someone's wife. She wanted to find her soulmate, and that's why she waited. And I think that is such a beautiful and healthy approach to dating. I think a lot of women could learn a lot from thinking of it like that. We do start to see Tiffany getting stressed about the wedding, kind of crying and breaking down a couple times about just like all the planning and stress, but it really seems like it has nothing at all to do with Brett or with her confidence in their relationship. It's more so just like the stress of planning a wedding, which I think anybody would feel. He is so reassuring of her, and he's very caring towards her. He always makes her feel seen and accepted, and they communicate really well. So I think that even though she's going through like the stress of planning this wedding, he is always there for her. They're really honest with each other, and I think that's why their relationship is miles ahead of everyone else on this show. We also get to see Brett's father and his brother meet Tiffany, and it's kind of the same thing. They're both really nice and they like her a lot right away. Brett's dad is so cute. He has this like cute little southern accent. I don't know if it's like a Louisiana accent or something, but he's really, really cute. One thing that Tiffany's friends bring up though at the bachelorette party is that Tiffany and Brett really haven't gone through a lot of conflict, and so in some ways it's kind of hard to know how strong they'll be when they go through conflict. And I think that's a very good point. Like, we've only seen them be happy and thriving together. We've never seen them face anything like truly difficult. So I think that's definitely a good point for her to be on the lookout for, but I still think that this relationship is gonna last. I'm so excited to watch them get married because it's gonna be really sweet. And like I said, this is everyone's favorite couple, so they are totally a fan favorite. Honestly, I like them more than Lauren and Cameron. I think they're probably my favorite couple that's ever been on Love is Blind. And I really hope that their relationship lasts. Next up, we can talk about Zach and Bliss. So kind of similar. These episodes are a whole lot of like meeting the family. That's most of what we see them doing in these scenes. So first, Bliss meets Zach's family. Zach's mother has passed away, so it's like his aunt, his sister, some of his cousins, I guess. And Bliss speaks really kindly and really eloquently about Zach and why she's in love with him. His family seems to like her. That scene is not super long, so we don't get a lot of detail about his family and like their opinions of her, but it goes well. Then we see Bliss and Zach going to meet Bliss's mom and two of her sisters. And the same thing again here. Zach is just speaking very highly of Bliss and talking about their relationship and how much he cares for her. However, he starts to do the whole like vulnerable thing. I guess he thinks it's better to be honest with her family from the beginning about everything that's happened. So he starts talking about how in the pods you have to be vulnerable, and he was vulnerable and ended up falling in love with two different women, Bliss and Arena. And he starts like telling her family the whole story of how he ended up getting engaged to somebody else and he didn't pick Bliss, and he knows now that it was a mistake and that girl wasn't a good person and all this stuff. And the whole time Bliss just looks so uncomfortable, and she's like, wow, like you're really telling them the whole story? And he's like, yeah, I am. And it's just, she clearly did not know that he was going to talk about this. But he also talks about not feeling accepted by partners in the past because of the way he grew up. He grew up in poverty. His mom was a stripper. They moved around a lot. So like he's always kind of apprehensive of being accepted by somebody with a more traditional family. But Bliss's mom is so sweet. She said she's never seen Bliss look at anyone the way she looks at Zach. And then she says, if my daughter chooses you, I'll be your mom too, which I thought was really sweet. On the other hand, later on, we see Bliss and Zach meeting Bliss's father and her stepmom. So her parents are divorced and her dad is remarried. And Bliss's dad is like definitely trying to be painted to kind of look like the villain, where he's not very interested in meeting Zach. He's not really receptive to conversation. He doesn't really have much to say. He thinks the whole thing is like kind of a joke. It's unbelievable to him that they would get married after knowing each other for like 3 weeks. He says like, I'm not trying to be mean, but good luck. Like he's just being very like, okay, like whatever you think is best, but he clearly does not approve of this situation. So he's being painted as the bad guy, but like this is exactly how my own father would be if I brought home some man that I met on a reality show and I was like, yeah, we're getting married in like a week. My dad would be like, okay, like you do what you want, but that's a terrible idea. Like, and honestly, facts. Like her dad is really the only rational person in this whole situation. Her stepmom asks Bliss if she feels ready to marry Zach or if she's sure about Zach, and she says, for now, and she's like trying to make a joke, but like, yikes. We also see Bliss and Zach talking about the decision that they've made and how are they going to decide at the altar, and Zach is pretty much just like, well, I made the decision to marry you, so I'm going to marry you. And she's trying to tease out this more specific difference between like, are you gonna say yes to me because you made a decision and so you're gonna follow through with your decision, or are you gonna say yes to me because it's actually the right thing for you to do? So like the difference between just doing it because you said you would do it versus doing it because you truly deeply want to. And I think that's a really, really important distinction to draw. Also, side note, have Zach and Bliss had sex? What do you guys think? We don't really see them like being very physically intimate. Like we saw them kiss during the proposal and stuff, but like we just don't really ever see them being like physical together. I know that most of that happened in like the Mexico vacation and she was not in the Mexico vacation, but like, do they have sex? Do you guys think? I don't know. I feel like physically, I can imagine that being a little uncomfortable. I just don't know that there's that physical spark between them. But I don't know. We'll probably never find out. Lastly, we can talk about Chelsea and Kwame. And boy, there is a lot to say. They were heavily featured in these episodes. The first scene where we see them together is them out shopping. And Chelsea's like trying out a bunch of clothes and he's just kind of like doing the boyfriend thing where he's like waiting forever for her to finish. She looks like she's genuinely having so much fun with him and like having a great time. And she says that to him and he's just like, okay. There's a really, really cringy scene where she like forces him to let her feed him a strawberry and he's like super not into it, but they do it anyway. She also makes him feed one to her. Like, it's just really strange. And they have this conversation where he says that he feels a bit suffocated by her. He seems to me to be very unplugged from the relationship. And there's a scene where he says that like he has no pockets to escape to. Like, if he's feeling down or like having a difficult day, he can't just like drive home 3 hours because he lives 3 hours away, whereas she always can like get away to see her friends, her family, you know, she has her own private space. And he doesn't have anything like that. Like, he has no support system, so that's really been difficult for him. She asks him directly if he can see himself saying yes to her, and he doesn't answer right away. He kind of beats around the bush a bit, and then finally he does say yes, and it's really clear that he's just trying to please her, and it's not so much about his real feelings. We also kind of get the same vibe again later when they go to meet Chelsea's family, and he's being like really nice and really charming and sweet to all of them, but it's kind of clear that he's just trying to play nice and like be the charming guy, but there's really nothing there below the surface. He says that he feels like that he's making all the sacrifices and none of it is on her end, but he also said it's scary for him to think about either one of them saying no. Later on, we see them doing this like engagement photo shoot, and Chelsea is saying that she's always envisioned herself doing this like sexy underwear engagement photo shoot with the man that she would marry. And like, I was kind of laughing because they come in and they're talking to the photographer about what they want to shoot, and it's so obvious that this photographer has received zero information or consultation about what he's going to be doing today. I feel kind of bad for the guy because he's just like, okay, yeah, I guess we can do that. Like, he looks so confused when they first start talking about what they want. But I also feel bad for Chelsea because she's saying like this is something she's dreamed of doing her whole life with her husband, and like, this man is gonna say no to her. I'm sorry, this man is gonna say no to her, and I feel bad that she's like wasting this like special opportunity with him. It really feels like Chelsea is too lost in her fantasy and like what she wants Kwame to be to see through what he actually is. And in my opinion, Chelsea is being really too optimistic about the situation. Kwame's being very pessimistic, and that causes neither one of them to be realistic about how it could be, how it could work, how happy they could be together. Like, she's just being way too positive and he's being way too negative, and neither one of them is being real. Another thing that's weighing really heavily on Kwame is the fact that his mom is not at all in favor of this situation. He's been trying to get in touch with her, texting her, calling her, and she does not respond to him. Chelsea says something about how Kwame doesn't even want her to take his last name until his mom approves, which like, that would really bother me, I think, if that was going on in my marriage or like my future marriage. Kwame also obviously really doesn't want to move to Seattle. He's really struggling with the idea of moving to Seattle. There's one point where one of his friends asked him directly, like, are you gonna say yes to Chelsea? Are you definitely saying yes? And he just laughs. Like, he just doesn't really want to answer it because he can't be confronted with that question directly, because he either knows that he's gonna say no or he's completely unsure. So with all that being said, now it's time for Chelsea and Kwame's wedding day. Yay! She shows up to the bridal suite, which is very beautiful. I don't know where this is taking place, probably some wedding venue near Seattle, but it's a very, very beautiful suite that she has, and it looks like the wedding setup is also very pretty. Chelsea's friends show up to get ready, and they're asking her like if she's sure that they're both on the same page, and Chelsea says that either she's gonna marry him and this will be the best day of her life, or he'll say no and this will be the worst day of her life. Meanwhile, we see Kwame talking to his brother and sister, and they're reassuring him that even though his mom isn't there, his mom is praying for him. She loves him. She just wants what's best for him. And they do a prayer together to ask God that he will be a wonderful husband and father. So it seems like his siblings are definitely in favor of the wedding and they're being really encouraging to him. Kwame's sister, Barbara, is so cute. She's my new favorite character. She comes in in looking fabulous in this beautiful orange dress. She has this really warm, welcoming vibe about her. Like there's a scene where she goes into Chelsea's suite and she gives her a gift that's like a traditional type of cloth to welcome Chelsea into their family. Like she's just a super like sweet, warm person. I honestly want them to get married just for his sister's sake, because I feel like his sister will be so sad if they don't. We also see his sister getting ready to walk him down the aisle before the wedding, and she's just like talking to him and encouraging him, and he completely just looks like he's about to throw up. He looks so nervous. He also mentions that he hasn't written any vows. She asks him if he's written vows and he says no. So that's not a good sign. So they get to the altar and the person marrying them asks like if either one of them wants to say anything, and then Chelsea gives this whole like long beautiful speech about how much she loves him and their relationship has been like a slow dance and whatever. Like she has all these beautiful little sentiments for him, and then it's his turn to talk and he says like all the qualities he loves about Chelsea, and one thing he says is like that she's somebody who is very understanding. And that leads me to believe that he's gonna work that into saying like, you're understanding, which is why I know that you'll understand when I tell you I can't marry you. Like that's what I feel like he's building up to. During her speech, she says something about becoming your wife forever, and it shows his face and he just looks terrified when she says that. But they ask her if she's saying yes, and she says, I do. And then they ask Kwame, and there's like a bunch of like big musical sting, and then it cuts off before he answers. So I assume the beginning of the next episode is gonna start with Kwame's answer and whether they get married or not. I will tell you right now, that man's gonna say no. It's gonna be so sad, but my prediction is that he will reject her. So that's kind of everything we have from these 3 episodes. The next episode, I think there's only one more, and it's coming out next Friday. So that episode will be all the other weddings. Of course, there's only 4 weddings now because Marshall and Jackie have broken up. And then the following week, there's going to be a reunion, which I've heard is going to be a live show, which Netflix does not do very often, but apparently the reunion will be live. I'm very interested to see if Josh will be part of this, if Irina will be part of this, or if it'll just be the couples that made it to the altar. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that the reunion will include everyone or just the ones who made it through? This season has definitely been one of the most interesting ones yet. Lots of like love triangles and switching partners and breakups, and way more intense than the other seasons, I think. So I've been loving this season, as you guys can tell from these videos. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I have loved reading your comments on my other videos. I will definitely make one more video to wrap this all up and give you guys my final thoughts. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!